Outside of work, he sits on the board of management for several schools in Singapore and volunteers with the Ministry of Social and Family Development. So let's welcome Dr. Jared Ng. Just beside, we got Ms. Nurliza Muhammad Shah, Principal, Infant Educare Centre Private Limited. Having been in the preschool industry for more than 15 years, Nurliza is the principal and holds a Master of Science majoring in Early Childhood Education from Boston University. She has vast experience as an educator, trainer, and mentor, and has worked with many trainee teachers over the years. For the past decade, she has also been an adjunct trainer with the National Institute of Early Childhood Development. Her passion for working with teachers and parents has allowed her to bring out the best in young children that she crosses paths with. So please join me to welcome Nurliza. Just beside, we have Ms. Justina Tan, Managing Director, People, Changi Airport Group, Singapore. Having been in the HR field since 2004, Justina was appointed to drive HR transformation in CAG. With her passion for organizational development work, she has driven various culture initiatives, implemented talent management and leadership development structures, spearheaded employee engagement, and designed performance management systems to drive performance. Under her strategic leadership, CAG has been an award-winning employer of choice in the industry. Let's welcome Justina. And lastly, just beside me, Mr. David Tan, Capability Developer, Health Ambassador, HPB. With more than 15 years of experience in human capital development, David is also a trained counselor and a recipient of the inaugural Skills Future Study Award for the training sector. David works with organizations to enhance workplace learning through learning design, competency mapping, and formulation of learning roadmaps. Passionate about giving back to the community meaningfully, David has been part of HPB's Health Ambassador Network for at least 10 years, involved in leading various health activities and capacity building of other health ambassadors. So let's welcome David. So thank you very much to our panel members for joining us today. Well, so let's set some context before we begin. So just a show of hands here, how many of you are now fully working from the office? Just a show of hands. Okay. How many of you are hybrid model? Oh, that's a good majority. How many of you are fully still working from home? Okay, so I think we are back to remote. So just to set the context, since COVID, when circuit breaker first happened, we were locked down. We all started to work from home, so that needed a bit of adjustment. So in terms of our lifestyle as well, we had adjustments to make also. In terms of from going out every day, moving about, to being at home, there was no distinction between work and rest time, leisure time, family time. And from there as well, at the same time, people started ordering a lot more. Perhaps they could not be exercising as much working from home. So I want to bring the conversation first to start with Justina, right? Because everybody here, all working professionals, they can all relate. So the first question I'd like to ask Justina is this. Other than the essential workers in CAG, are the majority of the office people in CAG, are they working from home, hybrid model? And also, what are some of the pressing issues that you have noticed in CAG over the past 2 years during COVID?
Yeah, so hi everyone, it's a pleasure to be here. Except for the operational people, I think we are working hybrid currently. And I think the last 2 years of COVID sort of bring this to the fore. I'm sure we'll be talking a little bit more about that in a bit, and I think that's also a very real thing that we need to put ourselves out there. Infancy, nonetheless, but making efforts and progress and focus in this area.
But I love it. At CAG, if they can't go to the health screening, you bring the health screening to your employees. So that's great, isn't it? And I think you made a good point there as well. Prevention is really real, right? In this case, do early screenings. If you catch, in this case, stage 0 cancer, so that's something that's very important as well. We of course, we encourage all of you to go for it as well. All right, so I want to shift the attention now. But before I do that, if you want to submit any questions, just a gentle reminder, submit to Pigeonhole. All right, so we have it on the screen, so you can just submit your questions. You can also upvote on questions that you want answered, and later on we will get to the Pigeonhole questions. So I want to shift the question now to Nurliza. So Nurliza is from the preschool sector. All right, so Justina was representing the workforce. Now we go to the preschools. All right, so the first question I want to ask Nurliza is this. What are you seeing in the preschoolers, especially during this COVID pandemic? And perhaps what are the opportunities then to have all these kids perhaps be healthier? What are you seeing first?
Right. Thank you, Lester, and everyone here. Of course, being children, they are always want to be outdoors and run and just be free. But of course, during the pandemic, their movements were quite restricted because of our advisories from our ministries and all. To engage the parents, and so we had a round-the-world cuisine and a healthier around-the-world cuisine.
So I also want to ask on this aspect as well, right? So moving forward, now that COVID is still amongst us, but now that we are living with the virus, right? Moving forward, what are some of the opportunities for perhaps our preschoolers to be, lead a healthier lifestyle, perhaps?
I think it takes a whole village to do it all together. And of course, the 10,000 steps initiative is powerful, I would say. So we encourage them to clock in, at least there's a target there.
Wow, so the young children, 10,000 steps, fantastic. Wow, if we can achieve that, that would be absolutely great because it starts from young, right? Being healthy, isn't it?
Yeah, yes.
Great, thank you very much. So I want to move now. So that was the preschool's perspective. So on my left, we have David. So David is a health ambassador. So this is the community perspective. So let's start, David, with what does a health ambassador do? For those of our friends, if they're not familiar with this term, health ambassador, what is a health ambassador?
Thanks for the question. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for your question, Lester. Health ambassadors can be engaged in many things, but briefly, I see them in a few areas. Key areas is to share bite-sized health tips with members of the community. You can actually leverage on social media to maybe create a Facebook group or things like that and engage your group, the community at large, or the community members through there.
So that's certainly true, isn't it? I mean, during COVID, everybody had to jump on the bandwagon to learn IT fast, right? We had to scan QR code, safe entry. In this case, I believe there are a lot of Zoom sessions, as you mentioned as well. Justina mentioned it as well.
Yeah, in fact, actually, because there's much reduced community engagement for health ambassadors, HPB actually took this opportunity to train the health ambassadors in many things, virtually through Zoom, actually. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit more about perhaps a health ambassador, the community in this network. So how many health ambassadors are there? And roughly how, within the community, you are seated, right, in the community. How do you go about doing it?
I believe in terms of numbers, there are probably in thousands, but in HBB system of volunteering, it's actually a very flexible system. I see a lot of opportunities in that kind of for people who are here, especially educators. They are very well placed to do the kind of work that I have been engaging as well. Yeah. So so that's
David, I love it. You sell koyo here. Making sure everybody, by the way, if you want to sign up as a health ambassador, we will gladly have you. Basically, as David mentioned, ad hoc. So no need to every day, every week go down one time. So basically, as and when you do, and then you promote healthy lifestyle to basically your community.
Yeah, or even to your peers as well, or your kakis. It's actually a very flexible system, honestly speaking. Or you can go, because now we open up, so the events based on is, I think, some opportunities there.
Yeah, perhaps, some of you, perhaps you go cycling in a group, you go brisk walking in a group, or you go jogging in a group as well. So these are some of the activities that a health ambassador potentially does. And of course, if you want to expand that network, join us, all right? Join the HPB, the health ambassadors.
And if you're forming those groups, actually there's a grant.
Oh, there is.
Yes,
there's a
but
grant.
you must be a health ambassador to apply for the grant.
Okay, great. Something good for all of you to know. Okay, if you want to apply for the grant, perhaps buy new equipment, maybe.
It's more the gathering and the frequency. I think that's how they manage to get the money.
Understand. But the main thing is this, being a health ambassador, you promote general healthy lifestyle, general well-being. That's what we're advocating here, right? In the community, there should be, somebody pushing the community forward, whether at home, workplace, among your friends as well. That's basically what a health ambassador does, to promote the general health and well-being of general population. So thank you very much, David.
Thanks.
All right, so I want to move on now to the expert on the panel. So Dr. Jarrett is the expert on this panel. So we heard from the workplace, we heard from the preschools, we heard from the community as well. So Dr. Jarrett, so after you heard from different segments of society, so first question is, what do you think is the general health trend that you have seen over the past 2 years?
Thanks, Lester. So good morning, everyone. So I'm a psychiatrist by training, so I will comment about health based on what I know, and also based on the fact that I'm a parent of 3 young kids. So I think there is a lot more focus on prevention and promotion efforts. I think with the launch of the Healthier SG, hoping to encourage them to do activities. So again, it's this kind of promotion prevention, not directly calling it a health intervention. I think that actually makes the difference.
I love this story, right? Because, as some of our panel members shared as well, this is a family, it's a community thing, right? So in this case, Dr. Jared, no choice. His children walk, he also have to walk. So his children become healthy, he also became healthy. In this case, 100 km last week. Wow, fantastic. And this is a great segue as well into, let's talk about mental well-being, right? So, we talked about general health in general from our different segments of society. Since you're a psychiatrist, right, let's dive a little deeper into mental well-being. Of course, got COVID. Let's set a bit of context here. People are from home a lot of time. They don't go out as much. They don't socialize. They don't interact. So then mental well-being issues come up. In this case, what are some resources available for people to tap on if, let's say, they need mental well-being services?
Yeah, so before COVID, a lot of times the only way to access mental health services is you make an appointment to see a psychiatrist or a specialized GP, and it can be quite challenging. There's a stigma involved, but I think since the pandemic, there has been a catalyst of interventions that people can seek help from, maybe online counseling, and there's also resources online. Like there's a mind.sg that people can find information about how to cope better with problems. Where are the resources available? There's also Mindline. There's also many other websites that's available. I think schools have also accelerated their mental health curriculum. I think under the enhanced CCE program, if you have kids in schools, you will know that they are focusing on mental health as well, talking about peer support, reaching out to your school counselors, to the teachers, to the REACH team to get help. So I think all these are resources that's available, that's more visible now during the pandemic.
Great. So mind.sg is something that perhaps if you have somebody, if they need mental well-being care, you can direct them there. I also want to share on It's Okay to Reach Out campaign. Dr. Jack, are you familiar with that campaign? It's Okay to Reach Out?
Yeah, so I think it's one of the campaigns that sort of tried to destigmatize seeking help for mental health condition. I think it teaches people about what are the things to look out for, and then to refer not just yourself, but friends, colleagues, family members that need help. They can be sort of referred to a mental health practitioner, not necessarily a psychiatrist, but counselors in a family service center, online counselor, school counselor, and so on.
Yeah, so this was a very recent campaign launched last year because mental well-being came to the forefront of the conversation with the pandemic. So in this case, Dr. Jared, if I can ask you, what are some of the efforts that can be done to drive better well-being, mental well-being from what you're seeing? What could people do in this case to help perhaps people or other people, or how can we drive the mental well-being conversation forward?
I think it's really to have more conversations. I think the more we talk about it, the more it's destigmatized, and to do things like that to improve their own mental well-being. So
that was a good point, right? Perhaps I want to drive that conversation towards the part on building a supportive environment, right? If you didn't know, HPB has the peer support program as well. So to equip students via the Institute of Higher Learnings, via the workplace as well, we do have some programs there, basically to create a conducive environment to help people in need. Right, that's a great point, right? How do you support people in depression? Where's the intervention point? Right, so in this case, we do have some resources available. So if you do need to tap on them, please let HPB know. We do have many resources to support and to help drive this conversation forward. Right, so I want to come to David in the community. In terms of mental well-being, what are you seeing? And perhaps from the perspective of a health ambassador, what can a health ambassador be doing?
Okay. The one positive thing I noticed over the last few years is ground initiative, not necessarily by health ambassadors, but by students, by people just in their community, organizing groups to support people, but by being there for them, because we don't expect them to solve the problems of those who are facing life challenges, but the physical presence of being there itself is helpful, I believe. If it's done online, I think it will work. It's actually something that can be considered.
Great. So let's move on to preschoolers, right? In this case, what are you seeing in the preschools, especially during this COVID period? Nalisa?
I think schools plays a part in promoting a positive culture And I think it starts with us adults, because especially for preschoolers, they are looking at the teachers. And so I agree with Dr. Gerard in promoting values. So for example, in school, even our graduation, it's a team on using values as a team. So like last year we had graciousness as a team. We adults are healthy in our minds, and then we can bring out the best in our children.
Yeah, so back to the point about community, everybody plays a part together. So let's move on to Justina. So Justina, now that we have a lot of your staff are coming back to office, right? What have you been noticing in terms of mental well-being over the past 2 years, and how is this moving forward?
I would say that the last 2 years are particularly difficult because I think when people were working from home, the boundaries were really blurred between work and home. And sometimes I think the issue that I see is that because CAG is a high-performing organization, right? So when we recruit people, actually they all have a DNA of two things. One, excellence. So whatever they do that is really good, they still want to make it better, right? So they keep going. And then there was a lot of grit because it was just difficult and hard, and we just have to grit our teeth through the very difficult times. Interestingly, one employee then texted me and said, hey, was it deliberate you chose these 3 words because it spells CAG, Changi Airport Group? No, it wasn't, but yes, and that's what we built over the last 2 years.
But I love the point about having good listening leaders, right? In this case, like you mentioned, they listened, feedback up, and then they implemented it down. So that's something for people in management roles to really think about as well. So I want to move on to Pigeonhole to answer some of your questions. So I want to go to Pigeonhole now. The top question with 9 votes. Preschool teachers work hard to develop our children holistically, right? You can see on the screen. Taking care of their physical, cognitive, social, and emotional needs. So how can they take care of themselves when they work long hours? I'm sure there are a lot of preschool teachers, management staff here as well. So Nalisa, what do you have to say to that?
Okay, I think like what was mentioned, the leaders plays a part to promote that environment. We are operational, so we work quite long hours. So try to understand the needs of every staff. So for example, let's say those staff that has children, so they prefer an earlier shift. We try to match them. So your partner matters a lot in the school environment.
Great. So that's all the time we have. But I just want to ask all our panel members to conclude with one tip on maybe general or mental well-being. So maybe let's start with David. Just a short sentence, 2-3 sentences.
Self-care. Yes, we are all very, very busy, but it's our own health, and I think we really need to find the time. It may not be many, many hours, but at least we need to make the effort to find the time to do self-care for ourselves, something that makes you happy. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Justina?
Well, I'll say that it's okay to be not okay, and it's okay to actually say that out there in the open. So if we take the very first step, I think you'll be surprised of the support that will rally around you. And I think that's one part of it. We always assume that nobody will understand, but actually more often than not, you will realize that you are not alone in this particular journey and that you can lean on to many people around you as well.
Reminds me of that Korean show as well. It's okay to not be okay.
Yeah, watch that too.
Which I'm sure a lot of Singaporeans, we love K-dramas, right? So, Nalisa?
I think for preschool teachers, take time to interact with your colleagues. Sometimes we are just so involved and passionate about doing it for the children that we forget to take care of ourselves. So it's important for us to talk to your colleagues and sometimes just talk something funny or silly, or and not just talk about deadlines and work. Yeah.
Great, thank you, Dr. Jarrett.
Yeah, so something I learned that is that it's not work-life balance, but it's work-life integration. I think it's impossible to find a balance in the kind of pace of work that we do in Singapore, but it's how to integrate your work together with the rest of your life. I think once we achieve that, life will be easier.
Great, thank you very much. So with that, can you please join me to say a big thank you to our panel members? We've got David, Justina, Nalisa, and Dr. Jarrett. Thank you very much to our panel members for your time.